10 cards rated, finger snapping, 10 cards rated, toe stabbing. What's going on, everyone? It is day 231 of 10 cards rated. Are you ready? It is also the first day of Tarkir Dragonstorm spoilers in the timeline, in case you're watching this years from now. This day in history, Tarkir Dragonstorm spoilers started, so I'm sure everyone's into that. So let's see what we get over here in this corner of the internet where no one's hanging out today, but you'll be here. You'll be here. That's why I address the future people, because they're here. So let's look at the first card of the day. It is Sensei Golden-Tail from Champions of Kamigawa. This also has a list printing. It's about $3 right now. This is 2 mana, 1 and a white, for a 2/1 legendary Fox Samurai with Bushido 1. So when it blocks or when it becomes blocked, it gets +1/+1 to Leo T. Also, though, this is probably the interesting bit, 1 and a white and tap it to put a training counter on a creature. That creature gains Bushido 1 and becomes a samurai in addition to its other creature types. Do this at sorcery speed. That's the whole card. That's it. You have to pay its casting cost and tap it to give a creature Bushido 1. I guess it also becomes a samurai, so samurai decks want it? Maybe that's what's going on. I'm not really sure. It is cool. I will give you that it is a cool magic card. It makes samurais sick. It passes around Bushido. That's kind of neat. But ultimately, is it a good? Would you call it a good magic card? I guess it's a fine 2-drop. So that lands its pretty definitely in like 3.9 territory or something. I don't know that I want to go any higher. How good is this really? Not amazing. So I'm going to give it like a 3.4. Honestly, I want to. Let's split the difference. 3.6 on this guy, I think. Because maybe I'm missing something. Somebody in the comments will let me know if I am. Good way to start the day. I do think he's awesome, but I'm not going to put him in my deck. Are you crazy? Let's move on to Dust Elemental from Planar Chaos. This dude's neat. 4 mana, 2 and 2 white for a 6/6 elemental with flash, flying, and fear, so it can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and black creatures. When it comes into play, return 3 creatures you control to their owner's hand. Little RK post artwork right here. Returning 3 creatures to your hand might actually be sick. That might be very, very good, actually. Especially in response to a sweeper or even just like, a removal spell or something. I can return some stuff. Also, you can return the Dust Elemental itself to your hand, which is supposed to be a drawback, but you can make that pretty good. So, flash on this means an awful lot, and a flying, difficult to block, very difficult to block, and because it's got these 2 abilities that are evasive. 6/6 for a pretty decent rate here. Altogether, I like this card a good bit, and in white and commander, you should have creatures that you want to repeat the enter the battlefield triggers on, or save from a removal spell, and then again play again for some profit. So, kind of surprised this has only ever been printed in Planar Chaos, to be honest. I feel like it should have been printed way more, but I'm gonna give Dust Elemental a kind of surprising 5 here. That it may be higher, I think, than some veteran viewers might assume I would rate this, but I actually think maybe this deserves a second look. That's one of the whole purposes of this series, is to sometimes come across cards that are forgotten, washed over by the sands of time. And this is a card I actually have some memories of back in Planar Chaos, but it never really went anywhere in Standard. I just liked pulling it out of boosters and being like, ooh, it's pretty good, right? And my Magic playing buddies being like, oh, this card sucks. And I'm like, but come on, you could do some stuff. And I feel like history is repeating itself again here. But honestly, Commander is a decent format for this, where the tricks are easier to pull off and, more plentiful. So, I don't know, dude. I like Dust. I like Dusty over here. I'll give old Dusty Rhodes a solid 5. I think he deserves it. So we'll move on to, oh boy, it's Beseech the Mirror. This will cost you like $15-20 right now for a copy of this card, man, and for good reason. 4 mana, 1 and 3 black for a sorcery with bargains. So when you cast it, you can sack an enchantment, artifact, or token. Search your library for a card, exile it face down, then shuffle. If the spell was bargain, you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost if that spell's mana value is 4 or less. Put the exiled card to your hand if it wasn't cast this way. So it always puts the card into your hand, right? And what a diabolic tutor? I always feel like I mix these up, right? There's one that costs 2 mana and you sack a creature and you tutor something up. And then there's the 4 mana one that's just tutor a card. And I feel like I mix these up an awful lot, but yeah, it's just an upgraded version, and it's harder to cast, but an upgraded version of a pretty bad tutor. You know what I mean? But this can also just get you a free card. Any card from your whole deck, so long as it costs 4 or less, for absolute free. Just throw it on the table. And that is crazy. It's so good, man. Like, this has been in a couple of like wonky builds in standard from time to time, and hopefully before it rotates, which will be a while. This card does not rotate in the upcoming rotations, so hopefully at some point in standard it'll get its due, because it is a ridiculous Magic card. In Commander, though, which is what we're mostly here for, that's what we sit down at the table to talk about. This is gonna be like a jeez. Let me ask the audience. I'm going to use an ask the audience on Beseech the Mirror. I will beseech you, in fact, member of the audience. What do you give this card? If you were me sitting in my chair in the place with all the responsibility that bears, what would you give Beseech the Mirror? I'm going to give it... I'm going to give this card an 8.5. Maybe I'm just like feeling really generous right now. But I think this card is half broken. This card's like 3/4 of the way to broken. This card is more broken than some of my teeth. This is a good card. It's a pretty good Magic card right here, to say the least. And I'm interested in kind of what you guys say about it. So I'll be down there. Behave yourselves. Let's move on to Ishi-Ishi Akki Crackshot from Betrayers of Kamigawa and no other sets with this classic Christopher Rush art. You see this goat? You see this goat here? This is 2 mana, 1 and a red for a 1/1 legendary goblin warrior. Whenever an opponent plays a spirit or arcane spell, Ishi-Ishi Akki Crackshot deals 2 damage to that player. The best thing about this card is saying its name. Getting to say the name of the card. Ishi-Ishi Akki Crackshot. It's almost like a Monty Python. It's Ishi-Ishi. It's like the Knights Who Say Knee. It's like a bit from that. This is not good. Ever. So I'm going to give this a 1. We don't really reserve the 1 for too much, but I imagine if you played this card for 1,000 years in different Commander games, it would not trigger once. So, and then the one time you're up against it would, because spirits, right? People play spirits. But like the one time you sit down against an arcane deck or whatever, and you're like, I got this guy, dude. Woo, this lady sitting across from me with an arcane deck. She doesn't know what kind of party she's coming to with. She's done, kid. Gonna grill her. And then like you just play the Ishi-Ishi, and she removes it. She starts going crazy with the arcane stuff and going crazy with the cheese whiz. This is bad. This is really bad. This is terrible. We don't give 1s too often here, but it's kind of amazing when it does. What an occasion when it does happen. Legendary 1 here. I think the goat makes it worse. We'll move on to Kinjalli's Sunwing from Ixalan here. 3 mana, 2 and a white for a 2/3 dinosaur with flying. Creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. So this was only ever printed in Ixalan, and also Lost Caverns Commander, so I guess it has been printed twice. Interestingly, it's only 50 cents from Lost Caverns Commander, and it looks functionally the exact same. So, I guess maybe this one's a little bit more saturated. The sunset in the background. This is a fine Magic card. This is a definition of a fine Magic. It's all right. Like, I'm not like very impressed by this, but I guess that ability is good some of the time. Whatever, upgraded Windrake, it's fine. So I guess I'll have to give it a 5. I don't want to. I think this is closer to like a 4.8. Discuss it amongst yourselves in the comment section. What is this? Is this 4.8 or a 5? I'll let you rate the card. So in other words, I guess it's a 4.9. But even that, honestly, even that sounds high to me. It really does. So we'll move on to Evolving Wilds. We have actually done this card before. Thank God I don't have to sit here and hem and haw about Evolving Wilds, which I think we gave a 5. But it's probably better. This card, honestly, I feel this card's like a 7. Evolving Wilds is very, very good. We'll move on to Cateran Overlord from Mercadian Masks, and only Mercadian Masks. It's one of these mercenaries that searches for mercenaries. 7 mana. 7 mana. 4 and 3 black for a 7/5 mercenary. Sack a creature, regenerate Overlord. You can pay 6, tap him, search your library for a merc with converted mana cost 6 or less, put it on the battlefield. So the problem with mercs, as opposed to rebels, right? They were both in Mercadian Mask block. Rebels, you see, they can search for a rebel with mana cost one higher than them. Mercs can search for someone with converted mana cost lower than theirs. Do you see the problem with mercenaries, how they're just worse than rebels. They're definitely going to lose the war, I would say. Although you'd think mercs and rebels would work together, but I guess the Empire sends the mercenaries after the rebels because maybe they don't have a proper army, so they have to hire thugs and send after the rebels. Maybe that's what's going on. I don't know the story of Mercadian Masks at all. But one way or the other, yeah, the fact that you can't play a bunch of mercenaries and eventually roll into this dude by tapping mercenaries like you can with rebels, that makes him so bad. so terrible, man. I guess the idea is that once he's out, he can search for basically any non-him mercenary in your entire deck, but you don't want to look back. You don't want to go back in terms of mana cost, but maybe you do. Maybe there's a crazy 3 mana mercenary in your deck. This guy can just go grab him. But overall, I've really spent too much time on Cateran Overlord, I want to say. So just give this card like a 4.5. And the only reason he's that high is because this still, at the end of the day, we are rating for casual commander, and this says go get any mercenary from your deck. Go get any changeling from your deck too, I guess, for what that's worth. They just printed some mercenaries and outlaws at Thunder Junction. So maybe I just feel like anything in Commander that, I went crazy about Beseech the Mirror. So I'm like, dude, this lets you search for anything and just put it into play. It's crazy. And this guy technically does that too, but not as good. We'll move on. Will we Scryfall? We will. To Fragmentize from Kaladesh here. This is a single white mana for a sorcery. Destroy target artifact or enchantment, converted mana cost 4 or less. Fine. It's pretty good. Most good artifacts and enchantments. This can blow up, all the way up to Smothering Tithe and not Trouble in Pairs. Trouble in Pairs costs 4 or 5. I forget. Anyway, this blows up a lot of good stuff, but are you going to play it? Are you going to play it above like a Disenchant that just blows up anything? Are you going to take that chance? No, you're not. So I'm going to give Fragmentize like a 3.9. Still a decent removal spell. I can't hate on it too much. So I'll move on to Olivia, Crimson Bride. Oh boy, this is a good Magic card. She looks awesome right here, dude. Oh, it's from the Dracula thing. Okay, that makes sense. But this is a card I've had a lot of fun with in Standard when it was still around. 6 mana, 4, a black, and a red for a 3/4 legendary vampire noble with flying and haste. Whenever Olivia attacks, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, tapped and attacking. It gains when you don't control a legendary vampire. Exile this creature. So you don't have to control Olivia, just the legendary vamp. You get to keep the dude. But yeah, this costs too much to actually have seen any real play in Standard. But boy, we really did force it a lot, didn't we? like on stream, we did so much with this card. You push, pull, and Olivia back into play, and she grabs... you push pull gets 2 things. One of them's Olivia. Olivia grabs something else, and it's getting my nipples to do stuff. It's a good, it's a good Magic card altogether. Especially if it's in your command zone, I bet it can do some just wild stuff. And it's expensive. Okay, this card's like $7. Why is the card like $7? It's crazy. What does she look like in black and white? She's in double feature. It looks like dog water. It looks bad. So it doesn't make sense. Okay, so maybe she's a popular commander, or maybe she's in the vampire decks in Commander, but I don't think so. Seems like she's just a fun commander. Cool thing here, pretty obviously, you know what I'm saying? So I'm going to give Olivia a... Man, casual commander. Why is she $7? That actually throws me off. I was all set to give this, a 5.1. Is that still correct, though? You know what I mean? I guess I'll be influenced by the price slightly and say 5.4 on Livy here. I think that she's pretty cool, man. She's pretty cool. We'll move on to Behold the Multiverse from Kaldheim. This is the 4 mana, instant draw 2 with effect from this set. 4 mana, told you. 3 in a blue for an instant, told you. It scries 2 and then it draws 2 cards. But in this case, you can foretell it. That means you can pay 1 in a blue and foretell it. So during your turn, you may pay 2 and exile this card from your hand face down. Cast it on a later turn for its foretell cost. So you foretell for the 2 mana, and then you can cast it for the 1 and a blue cost. Altogether an okay card. It's kind of neat that you can pay this in installments. But it is effectively sorcery speed, or a form of sorcery speed at least. And I don't love that, 2 foretell cards. But altogether, I just have to give these 4 mana draw 2s, a baseline of 3 point something. You know what I mean? So I'll give it a 3.4 in this instance. I don't think it's the worst version of this effect. We'll move on to final card of the day here. It's a good roll too. It's Inferno Titan from Magic 2011. Not the most celebrated of the Titans, I think we can all agree, but a good one, man. They're all good. This is 6 mana, 4 and 2 red for a 6/6 giant. You can pay a red and have it get +1/+0 till end of turn, so fire breathing. Whenever Inferno Titan enters the battlefield or attacks, it deals 3 damage divided as you choose among 1, 2, or 3 creatures or players. So attacks, use bolt. But you can split the bolt. So this is Arc Lightning. I feel like I brought that card up a lot this week. This is just cast Arc Lightning when enters or attacks, which is good, especially with blinks and whatever. You know what I mean? Fire breathing isn't the most like impressive ability in the world, but that's fine when you want it. So sometimes you can blow up a team of tokens or whatever. There's some things that Titan's pretty good at. So altogether, he's not going to show up as often as the other guys, but he still might show up. So, especially if it's just like Cube, you know what I mean? I play Simplified, Cube's good for beginners. Yeah, Inferno Titan's an exciting card. I'll give the dude a kind of sad 4.8. I can't. That's not right. I'll give the dude a 5.1. I will give the dude a 5.1. He crosses the 5 line because the trigger is very good. It really is. There are worse ways to spend 6 mana in a game of Magic for sure. But that is it for today. Hope them Tarkir spoilers were good. I guess we'll find out together. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.